Okay, I'm wearing this shirt. Yeah, you see it. That means this review can only be for one movie. The Great Gatsby. Nah, just kidding. I know, half of you are looking at what's the title of the video? Why does it say, Star Trek? Yes, today I saw Star Trek. Now, by the way, this I had planned to review the 2009 Star Trek, also directed by J.J. Abrams and with the relatively same cast. But time got away from me, and something happened on this movie. I totally blanked, and I found out yesterday, hey, the movie's out already. How did that happen? But yeah, I guess it came out Thursday. I didn't know that until it was too late, and it was literally last night. It was like 9 o'clock. I was like, it's out already? I was completely missed that. But not to worry. I saw it tonight, and it might be a little premature for me to say so, but it's I liked it better than the 2009 Star Trek. But I was less of a fan of that one than usual people are. There was just something about it that I just connected with, but at the same time almost didn't draw me in. But yeah, it's another review for another day. But yeah, this film, it's not, if you like that film, the general sense is you're going to like this one too. It's got plenty of action, plenty of spectacle and visual effects and villainry and stuff. And in a way, it's more well crafted, I think, in that way. It feels more like a conventional Star Trek movie, which, give or take, could be a little, good or bad. Okay, this review for me is going to be a little bit of a challenge because I have no way of telling you this to the point where you literally have to take it to heart, because you've probably heard already. If you plan to see this movie and you don't want to know a thing about it, do not read any reviews. Do not see any YouTube commenters. Do not look on the Wikipedia page like I did accidentally. By the way, that's how I knew what the plot was. I knew what was all going to happen. But that's only because I was looking up some information on the movie a few weeks ago, and there it was. And I was like, and I read the one crucial line in that description. And I had to say, there was no way I could go on without reading the rest of it. So please, and don't shut off this review, because I'm going to be your buddy here. I'm not going to give out a single spoiler here, and nor am I intentionally going to lead you to what could easily be predicted as a spoiler. But I know, please don't shut this off, please. But anyways, Into Darkness is quite a film experience, actually. It's in 3D. I've not seen it in 3D. I did see Iron Man in 3D. And I think 3D will be on its way out soon. Because, seriously, if we review my 3D experiences, I guess, I saw the How to Train Your Dragon in 3D. And that sucked. I saw Harry Potter, the last one in 3D, and it was okay. I saw the Jurassic Park in 3D, the first one in 3D. Okay, and then Iron Man 3 in 3D. Didn't add a thing, didn't feel any different. It was just, to quote Roger Ebert, an addition to the price. That's all it added to this film-going experience, is an addition to the ticket you're paying, and also you have to pay for popcorn and stuff. It sucked. Okay, not worth your time. And I'm not sure about Into Darkness in 3D, not about The Great Gatsby in 3D, but I certainly recommend this movie, no matter what format you see it in. Okay, what can I reveal about this plot without getting into major stuff? Because I know J.J. Abrams has said this, and I totally respect him for this. I respect him for a lot of things, actually. But one thing I truly respected him for was he said it's that rare experience where you can walk into a movie and literally know hardly anything about it. He wanted to get as close to that as he possibly could with this film. But since it's so big, there's no way he could have done it. And he did an admirable job trying to keep everything quiet. But the rumors were speculating way too early, and I'm not going to tell you whether or not they're true, but certainly there were other rumors I heard, and I'm not going to explain what those rumors are, but a couple of them were true. But still, I give J.J. Abrams a lot of credit for this movie. He does a really nice job with the production design on this film, too. Everything looks cool. The costume design is significantly improved over the first Star Trek. You know, I noticed, and maybe it's because I haven't seen the 2009 version of Star Trek for a while now. I didn't notice before on the Star Trek little symbols here that they have the, like for different departments, red shirt, blue shirt, green shirt, God, yellow shirt. What am I freaking wearing? I can't tell. 3D glasses are screwing with me here. I don't know what is it. Maybe it's a green. They have different symbols here, and they all exemplify, you know, science department. In this case, I don't know. But like blue is science and red is like engineering generally, and this is bridge? No. Command? Maybe? I don't know. I'm not. I actually am less into Star Trek than you might think. I got this shirt in New York, and yeah, I wanted a T-shirt, and this is one I saw, and I was like, okay, I'll take that. Okay, so. Into Darkness. It starts with a hugely entertaining sequence. Not as hugely entertaining as the sequence in the 2009 version, but no, we won't go through the whole thing and compare the two. That would be pointless. It's still pretty good, and it's a nice start. Action-filled. It involves, if you've seen the commercials at least, Spock in a big suit in a volcano. I'm not going to tell you why he's there. I'm not going to tell you what happens, but it's a nice sequence, and it reveals some early shots of the Enterprise, and the thing looks great. The Enterprise itself and the picture quality and everything looks great. And one thing, of course, J.J. Abrams does that I really, really like him for is he uses a lot of sets. Like, he doesn't, like the whole CGI green screen stuff, he's not too big a fan of. And I agree with that. I say, down with green screen. I don't use green screen. Look at this. That is a real freaking wall. That is not green screen. And my chair almost fell apart. Yeah, that is a real background. I'm not a big fan of green screen. I do not use a green screen. I don't own a green screen. I don't want one. It sucks. And it's overused. Blue screen. Look at the Star Wars prequels is the prime example here. But guess who's in charge of the next Star Wars movies? J.J. Abrams! That's right. Yeah. The one guy who uses conventional sets in Hollywood is making a film series which many have regarded now as the prequels being bad because they overuse technology. So yes, I am very, very excited for that. And no, this isn't going to be a whole praise J.J. Abrams video, though I could make that in a hot second. But certainly he does a great job with this. And the one thing I hope, since he's doing these Star Wars movies, he could sign on for more, is that Star Trek's going to get lost in the mix somewhere, and he's going to go all Star Wars, and that Disney's going to lure him in, you know, hook, line, sinker. Bigger paycheck probably than Paramount, because Disney, they own Lucasfilm now, they own Marvel, and they've cashed in $2 billion Marvel movies in a row now. Yeah, that's exciting news today. And absolutely, they're going to try to lure him in with as much money as they can give him, without being without bankrupting their own studio. But I hope to God he comes back, because in 3 years we're going to have the 50th anniversary of Star Trek, when it first started back on CBS. A lot of people say NBC. Just because NBC owns some of it now, that doesn't mean it originally aired there. It originally aired on CBS. I hear that all the time. But and that's one little annoying thing that irritates me. But I hope he comes back, because without him, this new franchise is probably going to flounder. And even with its 3 writers, I still don't think they're going to have the craft that J.J. Abrams will have. And it'll turn into, you know, a Star Wars prequel. There'll be CGI all over the place, green screen backgrounds, quantified to the point of infinity. I mean, seriously, we do not need another one of those movies. We just need J.J. Abrams back. And I hope he does it in 3 years, or at least in a good 5 years, because in 5 years, it'll be the 50th anniversary of the end of the television show. And since this is, you know, I guess technically it's pre-TV show. I don't know. This whole thing gets the whole thing now of, is it a prequel? Is it a remake? Is it a reboot? I still don't know, because there is one thing in this movie, one scene that clearly dictates, oh, this isn't a remake. This has to be either a reboot or a prequel series. Now, it's not a remake series, though sometimes it feels like it. There, I said it. That's not a specific spoiler, though. Don't worry, you're still safe. But anyways, the whole plot of the movie revolves around this criminal known as John Harrison, played excellently by Benedict Cumberbatch, who I have not seen in anything except War Horse, where he had a two-bit part, pretty much. Kirk and his company are forced to track him down, and I noticed there was a huge trend now in Hollywood that's doing this. Back in 2008, there was this little director named Christopher Nolan who made a movie called The Dark Knight. Small picture, you probably never heard of it. And there was one scene in which the Joker character, you're probably like, who? Yeah, played by Heath Ledger, a guy who you might recognize, I don't know. Ended up in a jail cell in one scene. And it's like, he wanted to be captured. And I noticed in a little movie called The Avengers a few years later, there's a scene where the villain goes to prison and he pretty much wants to be captured. And then there's another movie called Skyfall where a villain pretty much wants to be captured, so they take him to a jail cell. And there's a scene in the jail cell where the hero and the villain face off and talk one-on-one. And there's another scene like that in Star Trek Into Darkness, and this is a movie trend, and I think audiences are noticing it, and I think it's starting to piss them off. I myself am one of them audience members. I think this trend needs to go away before it becomes a major trend. I don't want to see the Lone Ranger have a scene like that. That's just a random example. I don't want to see Thor, The Dark World, have a scene like that. If they do, it'd be horrible. And totally useless. I don't want to see the next James Bond movie do that again. I don't want to see the next Spider-Man movie do that. I just don't want the stupid cliche. It's starting to get old now. I mean, it's cool in the Avengers how they did it, and people start to say, that's kind of a little similar to The Dark Knight. Then Skyfall does it, they're like, it's a little bit similar to The Dark Knight and the Avengers. And now Star Trek Into Darkness does it. You've seen it in the commercials. Yeah, Benedict Cumberbatch is behind bars at one point. Oh, that's like The Dark Knight. It's like the Avengers, and now it's like Skyfall. A movie trend, and movie trends usually are not a good thing. Plus, I think that whole thing now sets up, this trend now says, okay, we set it up like this. The villain does bad things in the first act. And then toward the end of the first act, or at the beginning of the second act, he gets captured. And there's a one-on-one scene with him and the hero. And, by the end of the second act, he's escaped. And the third act is all about containing him, getting him back, or killing him, depending on what your movie wants to do. And it's such a cliched formula now. But Star Trek Into Darkness does get around that a little bit. It does kind of figure out a way where it can not be a clone of, say, Skyfall or the Avengers or even The Dark Knight. It tries to be its own thing, and that's cool. I like that. Let's see. Since I can't really tell you any spoilers, I can't really tell you what really bothers me about this movie that makes it totally, down from a 10 out of 10, because that's almost where it was at one point. But then another point, it was about close to midway through, suddenly something happened, and I noticed, oh my god, what have they done? And it dropped down to like a 7 or an 8, and I thought, well, it's still good entertainment, but it's just not, it's just starting to disappoint me a little bit. And then toward the end of the second act, into the third act a little bit, close to there, somewhere in there, then it started to get me back, and then by the end I said, okay, it's back up to like a 9 out of 10. But yeah, this was an interesting one for me. As far as my grading goes, with Iron Man, it kind of did something like that. But here I'm a little bit more forgiving because the action in this one wowed me a little bit more than it did in Iron Man. In Iron Man, it kind of seemed like they got them. The pace was kind of off because the beginning of Iron Man 3, especially compared to a lot of other Marvel movies, starts out very slow, and then once the action hits, there's one scene of action in it, then it's every 10 minutes or so we get something. Whereas in Star Trek, it's like, okay, the opening sequence is more adventure than action, and then there's a little bit later there's an action scene, then there's a quick break, another action scene, and then a little bit more of a break, and then an action scene, and then a little bit longer of a break, and then an action scene, and so on and so forth. But by the end, it was the action pace had kind of settled a little bit better than it did in Iron Man, because in Iron Man it was like the middle. They had every once in a while they had an action part, and then at the end it was like the whole last 40 minutes they say, screw the story, we're going to have a big finale that includes like the whole third act being one gigantic battle, and it's, I don't know, it got tiring by the end. But here I didn't really feel all that tired by the end. Maybe I'm just more awake today than I was when I saw Iron Man 3. But then when I went back to see Iron Man 3, because I saw that at the 9 o'clock showing, like the day that came out, the day before it came out technically. And then I saw it again that same weekend in 3D, and I was, I don't know, a little bit more awake. I got sick actually afterwards, so that sucked. I think somebody around me was sick or something, gave me an infection or whatever. So that sucked. I was home in bed that next day. But yeah, I was more awake. I was a little bit more aware. I tried to catch something maybe that I missed in the first showing that maybe would understand things a little better or something. But I generally got the same effect, except the 3D made me want to give it a lower rating now because it just didn't add anything at all to the experience. Except, well, you got to pay more now. Instead of waste $20 with popcorn and stuff. Now you got to waste $25 or $30 with popcorn. And sodas and stuff, whatever. But Star Trek Into Darkness doesn't really have that problem, which is one thing I recommend, I commend writer and director, not writer and director, but director J.J. Abrams and writers. I'm not even going to try. I don't know them. But anyways, I have to say, as far as my complaints go, yes, there is something about the original Star Trek 2009, I should say the first Star Trek from 2009, that was cool, that was almost like a 100% completely fresh original Star Trek story. It didn't really lend itself to any TV episode or any previous movie that had come before, and then it was a revamped version of it. This is a different story. It looks like the first half or so, it looks like, oh, okay, this is going to be something cool, something fresh, something original. We've got a better villain already within the first couple of scenes with Benedict Cumberbatch. I said, this guy's going to blow Eric Bana out of the water if he gets some good scenes, and he did. And I thought, what an actor this is. Benedict Cumberbatch should definitely get out of I think he's on the Sherlock show, which I don't watch. He should wrap that up and get into more movies, because I want to see more. I'll see more of him in movies than I will on TV at this rate, from what I'm currently doing, since I don't have never seen a Sherlock series. I think I've had this conversation before. Watch my other reviews. You'll hear my opinion on it. But anyways, here it's like midway through or so, it starts to feel, sound, and literally at one point I thought they were doing a remake of a previous Star Trek story. And I started to get pissed off. I said, J.J. Abrams, why go to all this effort just to bail out and instead just say, oh, okay, let's borrow this story and chuck it in, and it's like, why? You had it in your hands, an original story that was going to excite audiences, that was going to bring people in, and you lost it. You dropped it. It's like you run 50 yards, it's like a game of football. You run 50 yards downfield, and you get to that 60, 70, or not really 60, 70, but the opposite 40, opposite 30, you're getting there, and you drop the ball, and the other team gets it, picks it up, starts running the other way. You don't know it yet. No, but it was eventually able to get the ball back, tackle the other guy, whatever. I don't play football much. I don't watch football much, so any joke or metaphor I make to football is usually not going to have an ending or much of a point beyond the obvious. But by the end, it started to come up with some more non-repeat stuff, which was kind of the saving grace. And also, though, there were literally like lines they were repeating from one film, and I thought, oh my God, Wow. I thought, why would you do that? Because you're going to have such a backlash from the people who know that stuff. But the theater I was in, by the way, it was not that crowded. Maybe a total of like 30 people there, which sucks because I know this movie is going to make buku bucks otherwise in the country. It's just, they didn't really know. I don't know if any of them were Trekkies. I don't want to have my inbox be filled with hate messages. You put it on! All you people who watch the show more than I do. The Next Generation, which I have not seen a single episode of. And I know I might disgrace some of you by wearing the shirt, but I'm not going to take it off because you don't want to see what's underneath. It would sicken most of you out, and it'd be like, I don't know, God knows what. You'd be puking and stuff all over your computer. I don't want to get sued for stuff like that. Malfunctioning keyboards. I was watching this video, it made me puke. I'm suing this guy. I hate when people try to do that. So, rather than fill you in on some spoilers, I'll point out some stuff that I liked. Number one, or stuff I noticed and I liked. Number one, we see the return of a famous figure from an 80s action movie, and that is, of course, Peter Weller from Robocop. The guy who plays Robocop is in this movie. And I thought he did a slam-bang job of being the role he was assigned. And you don't usually see him in that role, not to try to give anything away, but it was interesting to see him in this role, and in the kind of almost generic role they give him. It was interesting, and I thought, wow, he can do anything, can't he? A good actor. I hope to see him in more stuff now. Not only the return of RoboCop, but I had to look this up. I noticed it, and I didn't read up whole bunch on this, except for I knew already from like bonus features on the first movie that J.J. Abrams doesn't like to use green screen all that much. I'll again shout my praises out to him. Live long and prosper. That's right, you gotta have your thumb out. I hate when people criticize it like that. You tell me this is not the volume. You gotta have your thumb out. People get so obsessed and into that, then it's... You know what? Actually, for Star Wars fans, it's as offensive as saying, why did Luke's lightsaber turn from green to blue in Return of the Jedi? That just makes my blood boil. Just hearing myself say that, I just want to, whatever. Yeah, I completely lost my train of thought. Where was I going with this? Oh yeah, but I quickly saw it and I thought, is that who I thought that was? And yes, I looked it up. Heather Langenkamp. You probably don't know who I'm talking about. You ever seen the original Nightmare on Elm Street? The girl from that, the main character, Nancy Thompson from that movie, is in Star Trek Into Darkness. I had no idea that was going to happen. I caught it, I thought, that looks a lot like Heather Langenkamp. And I looked it up and I thought, it makes sense now. And I knew Peter Weller was going to be in it, but I didn't know she was going to be in it. And when I saw her, I was like, holy cow, she's still acting? Yeah, I haven't seen her in anything in ages, nor have I seen Peter Weller in anything in ages. But I did look up his filmography. Evidently he's voicing Batman in some comic book adaptation. I don't watch those either, unfortunately. Those cartoon, yeah. Anyways, but this was like a return to form for those guys. They're finally back in films. And I really hope to see him again. Maybe not in this specific film, but certainly in other stuff. And one other thing, I heard about this. Actually, it was like the most recent thing I've heard, and I knew this going in. But the transporter officer, whenever Scotty's not there, which he's not in a couple of scenes, I'm not gonna tell you why. I'm not gonna try to explain why, but he's not in certain parts. Is played actually by the original Scotty, James Doohan's son. And it's kind of nice to see him, because I know he had to take a lot of convincing to do it, because I know he did it quickly in the first Star Trek. Here they gave him actually a couple of lines. I swear, if they just give him a name, that would be great. And then we have, in addition to the cast. But anyways, I noticed that, and that was very, very cool. I like how they're kind of winking to the original series like that. They just need to get William Shatner in one of these days. I'm not going to spoil anything, but Leonard Nimoy was in the first one, and he did a great job. I love how they used him there. And in Star Trek Into Darkness, I was almost expecting like a William Shatner cameo or or a Nichelle Nichols or a George Takei cameo or something. And here I am. I'm not a very big fan of Star Trek. I can name off the original cast members' names like it's nothing like that. But other than that, I noticed in the first Star Trek movie that the makeup effects and like the different alien species and stuff, they were like really generic and really, you know, like not very selective. And here they tried a little harder, I think. And yeah, the aliens in this movie, I'm not going to say, but there's a certain alien race that we've seen in different incarnations of Star Trek before that are in this movie, that are finally in the J.J. Abrams Star Trek universe that I've been waiting for since they first announced Star Trek was going to be rebooted way back when. And they're in it, and they look like crap, unfortunately. And for some reason, it's all CGI, and they didn't use makeup, and that's bad idea. J.J. Abrams, what were you thinking? You could have done that with makeup easily. I could have done that with makeup better than you made it with CGI, probably. Maybe not. I don't have very steady hands. He probably would have ended up looking like a Play-Doh monster. But, and then another thing I noticed was there's a cool guy. You gotta look for this. You have got to look for this. On the bridge of the Enterprise, to Kirk's, let me see, okay, you're looking at Kirk here. He's on this side. He's on this side. Like from the screen projection, you're sitting here, you're looking here, Kirk's in the center here, he'll be on this side, but if you look at it realistically, he's on this side. Either way, looking at the screen on Kirk's right, there's a guy who's behind like I think he's behind a panel, and he's wearing a red shirt. He's a red shirt, but he doesn't, not spoil anything, but don't worry, he's a small character, he has no relevance to the plot whatsoever. Doesn't die. One of the few times outside of like Scotty and Uhura in Star Trek history when a red shirt does not die. He has the coolest friggin' voice of all time. What they use for his character is so cool. The creation of that character and the fact he's an alien or whatever, so cool. I want that guy to have a bigger role in the sequel. The next one, which I hope they're doing soon. And, you know, they later reveal, oh, he's got like a plug or something in the back that makes him talk like that. But I think, oh, how friggin' cool is that? And then there's another woman that takes Chekhov's place at one point, and she's kind of got a cool voice too, and the aliens in the movie look way better, and also the aliens in the beginning, the makeup effects on those look pretty good too. But yeah, absolutely, the makeup effects and just the effort into making these aliens look like aliens was way, way, way better this time around. And the visual effects always look great, and balancing out the cast could have worked maybe a little bit better. There were certain points where certain crew members just kind of disappeared and you forgot about them for about a good stretch of the movie, like 20-30 minutes before we finally caught up with them. And then, but yeah, Benedict Cumberbatch, let me talk just a little bit more about him, and then I think I'll wrap this up. I had to save the best for last year. And just the whole cast gives a great performance. Chris Pine did way better in this movie than he did in the first movie. But his role this time, he's a little bit less of an a-hole this time around. He's a little bit less of a jerk. He's slightly more respectable now. A little bit more grown up. And that's very good. And I like that. And Zachary Quinto's Spock is a little bit more controlled than he was in the first film, too. Because remember in the first film he was beating Kirk up and so on. Here he's got, not spoiling anything, he's got a little less stress on him than having his home planet destroyed. Nothing like that happens in this movie to Spock, at least. And I don't think that's much of a spoiler anyways. But his emotions are a little bit more controlled now, but that does give him a little bit more of an opportunity for comedy, and that's nice. Simon Pegg as Scotty is hilarious in this movie. Zoe Saldana, yeah, that's her name. Very good as Lieutenant Uhura, and she gets a couple of nice moments where she shines. John Cho was given some nice shining moments as Hikaru Sulu, and Anton Yelchin, that's his name, right. You might notice him also from the last Terminator movie they did. is Chekhov, and he gets in one or two moments where he's on screen, and then it's almost like, yeah, he's another one of those characters that just disappears for a good chunk of the movie. And it's like, what happened to him? You know, and we just kind of forget about him. And then he pops up on the camera like, oh, he's in this movie? That's right, yeah. Okay, but the best performance of the movie, hands down, has got to go to Benedict Cumberbatch. Wow. Like I said, I didn't have much expectations for him. I know some of you have a lot of expectations for him in this movie. But yes, he absolutely nailed this role. Unflinching, totally B.A. in this role. It is incredible to see him act in this movie. I mean, yeah, there's literally moments where he's staring a hero down, he's giving a speech, he doesn't blink once. I don't know if they edited them out like they did in... what was the name of it? Oh, I forgot what movie it was. Where they edited out the blinking. I can't remember. Oh, what movie was that? I remember there was a movie where I specifically remember that they cut out the blinking. A character, it was like a villain character, and they would cut from him, or they would they would cut out when he blinked. Oh, I can't remember what it was. This is gonna bother me like no other. There's a classic film, like from the 80s, I think, or 80s or 90s, and it's like, I just cannot remember the life of me. Anyways, but it's almost like they did that to this, where they cut out all his blinking stuff, because he did not flinch once. That I remember when he's having a conversation with somebody, in like a confrontational conversation. He didn't flinch once, he didn't blink once, he was like, he is focused. You know, his goals are set, his ducks in a row, he's knocking them off one by one. And I respect his acting choice to very much bring a more controlled, a little bit more less theatrics, Shakespeare, almost for a good matter, Shakespearean method acting, like Eric Bana did in the first film, and he is so much better at playing a villain than Eric Bana is. No offense to Eric Bana, but certainly between the two, you got to give the upper hand to Cumberbatch. One other thing I gotta say, and then I promise I'll wrap this up. I think this is going on a little long, isn't it? Crap, it is. The thing about this whole thing of it starts to represent, and almost is a remake of a certain Star Trek story. Here, it's both the biggest strength and the biggest weakness of the movie. In its weakness, we kind of know how the story is going to resolve itself. We kind of know how it's going to keep going and how it's going to end, and it knocks off points for originality. But on the upper side of that, certain audience members who remember that story then say, "Oh, I remember this. You know, that's a cool way they bring this in," and they'll look at it that way, and maybe their ticket prices will go up because they have a certain. I'm not going to go any further than that. But they have a certain aspect in this film brought back, kind of rejuvenated a little bit. Not going to say what the character's name, not going to say if it's a building, not going to say if it's a starship, not going to say anything. You can't get it out of me before you beat me to a pulp and give me $1,000. No, I'll take $1 million actually. But anyways, overall this is a great film, very nice action film, an improvement, at least for me, over the 2009 film. But the one thing this film does absolutely is solidifies that J.J. Abrams is one of the up and rising directors who can totally handle anything thrown at him. He is to the point now of the Christopher Nolans. He is starting to get up there, where Christopher Nolan, you can throw any project at him, he'll knock it out of the park. J.J. Abrams, he is just a step below him. He is just right. It's like Nolan's here. J.J. Abrams has been rising, and he's about here. I mean, if he knocks the next Star Wars movie totally out of the park and brings it on the level of the original Star Wars trilogy, he will have his whole career. He will be able to pick whatever projects he wants for eternity. He will have everything set up for him. I mean, it'll be incredible 3 years from now, or 2 years from now, actually, when that's supposed to come out, episode 7, which I'm highly looking forward to, especially now, since he hasn't dropped the ball on this franchise. If I'm still doing these reviews, then yes, catch up with me, and I will definitely give you my opinion on that when that comes out. Other than that, let's see. In future, what's coming out? Let's see, there's that new Fast and Furious, which I have not seen any Fast and Furious movies before this, not even Fast 5. So, to walk into this one totally cold, I don't know. Would it be fair? Probably not, but I don't know. And then there's that Hangover 3, which the Hangover 2 just dropped my interest totally in that as a franchise. But this one does look a little bit more original, so that's good. And I haven't seen a whole lot of advertising for it, which is probably a good thing, because then that leads up. They don't want to, give away the big surprises early like they did in The Hangover 2 with that marketing push. And The Hangover 1, of course, completely knocked us off our socks because, knocked our socks off. God, I screwed that up. Because that was original for the time. Whereas Hangover Part 2, they gave away everything too early. Here, they're not trying to give everything away too early. They're trying to save the best for when we finally sit down in the theater and go see it. So, depending on that, I might go see that, maybe not. At this point, it's probably leaning toward maybe not. I might save my money for another movie, like, let's see, that After Earth comes out, that might be okay. That Now You See Me, it's a heist magic film. The last magic film to come out was the Wonderful Burnt Wonderstone or something. That totally tanked. And Steve Carell, the worst point in his career for a while now. This Now You See Me has Jesse Eisenberg and Morgan Freeman, and Michael Caine, Woody Harrelson, and Mark Ruffalo, and Isla Fisher, and Dave Franco. Yeah, the brother of Jake Franco, I think that's right. Yeah. It looks like it's going to be, that looks to me like an entertaining film. But it might be a total best parts are in the trailer and in the TV spots and everything. Could be. And then after that, it's a quiet weekend until Superman comes out. So this might be the last review we see for a while. Before, maybe since I'm aware of when Superman is coming out exactly, and unless they change it, which I hope they don't, then I'll have at least a review of the first Superman. Because the first Superman, and I know a few of you are going to say, oh, come on, to this. The first Superman, I get so nostalgic when I watch it. Every time I watch it, I just feel so good that I cannot reward any film other than that as the best superhero movie of all time. The first Superman, Superman the movie, 1978, with Christopher Reeve, the definitive actor to play Superman. And I'll at least try to do a review for that before that comes out. And then depending on that, I might try to get all the way through 4 if I can make it that far, which I don't want to go anywhere near that movie again. And Superman Returns I might do, which is okay. Definitely an improvement over Superman 4 within the first 3 minutes of screen time. Try to lead up to it a little bit better than I did here. So I'll sign off. Since the Star Trek, I gotta do this, but you won't see that for the rest of the videos, don't worry. And I gotta do this. My views have gone up. Somebody's starting to pick up on me, which is good. Keep watching. And yeah, whoever you are who's watching my videos now, keep it up. Keep it up. I like to see my view count go up. That lets me know people are actually listening to me, and I'm not just talking to a camera in an empty room. It makes me feel so good. Thank you very much for watching this and other videos, and good day. Have a good one. And see Star Trek Into Darkness.
Trek!